we live in a society where it is encouraged to not think about other people, where like you are really told you have to be only concerned about yourself because no one's going to be concerned about you. And because so many of us have been told that from the start, from the jump, that it's like, look, you need to worry about you. You can't be worried about somebody else.
Enough of me, let's get back to this gorgeous view. I hope that you enjoyed the show. Welcome to the Black Pew.
And he's going to get
80-20.
80-20. And this is why.
Thank y'all for tuning into the Black Pew podcast.
With your pink sauce.
we up in here, but we got a special guest in here. Javan, tell our listeners who you are, where you're from, what you do.
Okay. Wow, that's a big question. No. So I'm a stand-up comedian. I'm a podcaster. I produce shows. So the stand-up comedian thing is, I guess, the biggest thing I should talk about. So I do stand-up pretty much everywhere. I produce a show here in Seattle, a stand-up show called The Blackout. It's the only all-black show in Seattle. As far as I know, the first all-black show in Seattle. Hopefully not like the last one. I have a podcast called Frowntown. It is primarily focused on talking about laws, and I do it from the standpoint of I'm not a lawyer. I'm not like a particularly smart person. I just read laws, and then I talk about, okay, the intent behind it, and then whether or not the law hits the intent. And if it doesn't hit the intent, is it because of language? Is it because the intent isn't actually the intent? And we just kind of spend time kind of talking about the impact that laws have, and then also how you, on a regular basis, on a local level, can actually impact like your local laws and how that stems out and kind of scales up towards like a national and I guess a regional and a national level. So I started that actually during the pandemic because I was like hurting for stage time because nobody was doing anything comedy wise. And then initially I was just like, I'll just do like a podcast where I'm just gonna like talk shit about stuff. And I ran into my co-host V, who was like, I want to do laws. And then after we talked longer, I was like, all right, cool, let's just fucking around and do laws. And it started off kind of goofy, but it eventually turned into something that was actually kind of cool.
All right, I got a two-part question.
What's up?
All right. You say you guys do shows, right?
Yeah.
Do you guys do shows as far as it, like, do you put on shows and the roster changes, or is it a set roster of comedians
for
that do shows? Yeah.
Okay, so it's rotating. So every month we feature 2 black comedians from there, and then we have a headliner who is so far has been local. So like this month is Mitch Mitchell. Next month is actually Nate Jackson, which is kind of a big deal for us. Yeah. Like Shauna Christmas, who was in this area, but I think she's in Las Vegas now. She'll be in October. So we've just been kind of like doing like rotating headliners, trying to get as many local black comedians like stage time and spots in front of like a legit audience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Two-part question.
Okay. Yeah.
Second part of the question is probably a little bit more silly, and maybe I probably should have personally asked this. Do y'all mentor comedians?
That's not a silly question. I started because I wanted to build a space for comedians to build. Because like the thing that people don't realize about comedy is that like it's like this really stupid minute-based thing where like how many minutes you have determines like what work you can get.
Exactly.
Right.
Or how you present the work.
Right. Like how so like everyone's like, well, do you have 10 minutes? Do you have 15? Do you have 20? Do you have 30?
Definitely.
And it is difficult for you to
structure
build.
To be able to put it, especially like if you have 5 minutes, it's hard for you to structure
to structure it into a 10, right?
Yeah.
So you can do like 2 5s and then try to put them together, but then you still need someone to give you a shot to do that 10 minutes to figure out, okay, well, does it work?
But then if you get 15, then you have to learn how to expand it. Yeah. You
get
30, you got to learn how to expand it.
Right.
You get an hour special.
And you still need time. You still need space.
Yeah. And that's why I was asking.
And that's why we have it. So and you still need the space to be able to like, okay, I need to be able to do 10 in front of an audience. And typically someone has to pay you to do that.
Workshops amongst yourselves?
Not yet, but I mean, I'm not against it.
Because there's there's 2 more reasons why I asked.
Okay.
All right. One, I used to do stand up. You know what I'm saying? For a long time. So personally, I'm interested myself. Okay. But I also look at a lot of the greats. And when I start to go back into the story, because I'm a historian of the craft, a lot of them pretty much networked with each other from a long time, and they workshopped with each other, right? And they helped each other.
A mentor.
Well, they actually, no.
Well, I mean, like
I wouldn't
artists.
necessarily just say mentor.
Like a group of artists would work together.
But they work together to help each other find their own lane, to kind of find their own brand, to kind of like focus on what type of comic they are, what they should focus on. Because I think a lot of times when people do comedy, they don't really know what they should focus on being funny, right? You just have this vast variety of. There's very rare people who know, like, I'm gonna stay in this lane and I'm gonna make this, because you have to like master something before you can expand.
The first 6 months is just you trying to figure out like what's the lane.
What's the lane you're in?
Like what am I? Like what's funny when I say it?
Exactly. And I think sometimes when you have like this group of people who can see you from the outside and say, you know what, maybe if you focused on this, and that, you might.
That's why.
So to answer your question, because it is happening a little bit more informally. There's not a formal like program or mentorship, but that does happen really informally. So comedians see each other like a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Like this, especially if you've done it. Like you're going to open mics, just doing like there's like. At one point, I remember doing like
most
8.
of the comedians are all the open mics,
and we're all at one point I remember doing like 8 open mics a week. So like if we're all like if you're really grinding, I'm seeing you like 8 times a week, and I'm seeing you do the same set 8 times a week. Exactly. So like I hear you do that same joke, and then, if you start a joke on Monday, and I hear it on Monday, and it's like, oh, that's funny, and then I hear it on Tuesday, I'm like, okay,
but
I
it's
hear it on Wednesday
throughout the time.
Yeah, you see them changing stuff, and what happens over time is if you hear someone with a joke, like you may think of a tag, you may think like, okay, or you may see them doing this joke and it's just not working. Yeah, like this is not.
You see it may hit here, but it may not hit here. You know what I'm saying?
Sometimes it's like, this isn't your fault. It's just. It's this crowd, but sometimes like it's inconsistent because it's inconsistent with you.
Exactly.
And so that happens. I think there's more mentorship amongst comedians, especially in this scene. I think it's just a little bit more inviting.
Well, I've never done it here. I was in California when I did it.
Here's a little bit more inviting. I feel like if you're in Cali or like Chicago or New York,
Cali was so cutthroat.
Yeah, because like it's an industry.
So many people try to
They were like,
it.
"Boo, Marv, sit down."
No, it's an industry.
No.
It's an industry.
I actually, to tell you the truth, I did very well, but it is like very cutthroat. Yeah. You feel me? Like,
I can imagine Chicago, New York.
Well, because you're
California, Atlanta, I'm sure too.
Well, because you're fighting for these positions when these big wigs come to the town, you want these clubs to call you to do the opening act, right? And so that's what you're fighting for. When you're in a market like this, to where comedy, I wouldn't say it isn't big, but it's not like hella comedians, right? Mm-hmm. It's not that they're kind of like scratching each other's back. When you're in a market like California, where especially I was in Northern California, so you're not even in LA, like everybody's just like fighting for you. Everybody is so cutthroat because only so many people are gonna get the chance to get the shot when these big wigs are coming. Right. So it's nasty.
Some of it's culture too. Like it depends upon like who was in the scene and like when it started. Yeah. So like I feel like the Seattle scene when it started was like way more supportive of each other because to your point, there wasn't a lot of industry here. There's not a lot of like all of our shows are bar shows. And there's like very few clubs.
Reason. I didn't start. I love comedy. I didn't start because
it differentiates when you're in these other, predominantly black areas. It's just one culture.
Yeah, and it wasn't predominantly black areas.
And they're expecting a lot out of you.
Like, I didn't start because I wanted to be a comedian, but I didn't start necessarily focused on comedian.
Why'd you quit?
It's a long story, but I was focused on trying to so. Long story short, my brother, rest in peace. We had this project that we were focusing on. And in order to get the project, I had to build the brand, right? And so my part of the project was to be the comical relief. And in order to be the comical relief, I figured I started going to these open mics and touring and stuff like that in the Bay Area. And I can help build the brand so that when we built it up, I already had that name in that area, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's what got me started. I sucked ass at first. I bombed 5 times, but I just kept going. You feel me? And
that's exactly what it is.
I actually learned. I learned the craft of it. Long story short, I moved out here. And he still lived in California. He was sick, and he didn't really tell me. He ended up passing away.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, our plan, like the whole vision, just kind of like fizzled, and I was just like, I don't know if I want to do comedy anymore.
Yeah. So you just like, you just kind of let it drop.
I did, and so what eventually ended up happening was like I do want to do comedy again, right? And so then I started back, and I was going, and this is what really happened. So I started back, and I'm going, and I'm snapping like I'm doing this local comedy club in Fairfield, California, and I'm snapping, and I do this job, and I don't even think that this dude probably remembers to this day, but there's this guy, and he comes up, his name is Even Stevens, and he's actually related to E40, Earl Stevens, right? Yeah. And they have this entertainment company, and it was this show. It was actually a pretty special open mic show to me. I didn't usually tell my friends I did comedy and all that. And this time, like my guys from high school, I had told them I'm about to do open mic. They show up. They came and surprised me, showed up. And I killed it. And after they show up and we're sitting there, celebrating afterwards, this guy, Even Stevens, walks up to me with his card and he's like, "Hey, bro, like I really rock with you. I do this little network, yada, yada, yada. We want you to work with us." And that made me quit.
That's what made you quit.
Are you kidding me right now?
I mean,
take the mic away.
No, I want to hear the thought process.
Let me tell you something.
Because you're being challenged.
I've never told anybody this. Trey's finna post this video, and so many people are gonna learn this. So many people realize that I quit comedy and don't know why. That's why I quit. The success of it literally scared the hell out of me. Because at that point, I wasn't doing it to be successful.
Okay.
I was kind of just doing it because I knew I had stopped. And then I seen the evolution of it, and I was just I even seen how I was handling it, like doing my set, because I stopped writing.
Really?
I was able to go up and do a set without even writing.
Uh-huh.
And so that's really what, and so it was the pressure of it, sustaining that shit, and if somebody wanting you to have to sustain that shit and doing multiple shows and sustaining that shit,
it's a drain,
and not writing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Marv, if you can be up on here on these mics making fun of all of us, are you serious?
What I needed and what I've always shot for, I always told somebody, I probably would get back into comedy if I had a writer.
Yeah.
If I had a writer, I'd probably get back in the car.
Yeah.
Because I don't I know how to structure a joke. But
writing,
the process of writing
the actual
it
creation.
is the hard, the hard part of it. I can even have the idea, but structuring the ideas. But when I'm up there, I can free flow the idea.
Would you have a writer? Would you do your stand up if somebody was writing for you?
I'm gonna say I have writing partners, not for my stand up, but for other stuff.
Yeah.
But it's hard for me to do that. It's a little bit of pride because writing is my thing. So the performing part of it was difficult for me to get.
Yeah.
I have been writing comedy and humor. That's the easy part for me.
The easy part for me is the performing.
Yeah, the easy part for me is the writing.
Is the hardest.
Yeah, the hardest part for me is the performing. I actually could do without it. I actually writing is the part that I like. So I've been writing since I was 16, and it's it's just natural for me.
Yeah.
I wrote 2 jokes in the car on the way here, and I was I'm gonna crash putting this stuff into my phone because I just think of stuff.
Yes.
And so the only thing I will say that I love about performing is the build of it. So it's taking to I think of something funny, I take it on stage, I try it out, I see what people laugh at, and then I tweak it a little bit. I'm all right, let me try this wording, let me try this, and that part of it I really enjoy. But that's more just still I'm just getting writing and then getting feedback and then going back and writing. So
it's like,
no.
Do you record yourself during your open mics and things so that you can?
It's like
I have a weird answer to this, but
it's
go
like
ahead.
itching the interest of writing, right? Because you being able to go out and perform, it gives you the opportunity to workshop and go back and writing.
Right.
Sorry,
okay. But no, that's a good question.
My voice is a little invisible.
No.
So you can just keep going. It's all right.
It's a really good question. No, it's a really good question.
I have a question for you though. After this,
first of all, before you answer that question, do you have vocal confrontation?
Do I have?
Do you have vocal confrontation problem?
No, I don't.
Okay, good. It's hard for me to edit this podcast because I hate hearing my own voice.
Really?
And I felt like if I was performing, I wouldn't be able to listen to myself.
So I've been podcasting since I was 23.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm 40 now. So I kind of burnt my voice into my head now. Like and I do voiceover work as well.
Okay.
So I'm so used to hearing my voice now that I've gotten past it. But when I first started, I hated it.
Yeah.
And I actually, the way I got past it is I would record listening to a monitor so I could hear everyone, for levels. And then I would hear my voice, and I had to get used to talking and hearing my voice in the mic, like in my ear as I'm talking, and it kind of broke it for me. Mm-hmm. But to answer your question, so I don't record myself because I'm a little weird. I remember all of my sets. So like I remember everything. I don't take notes on stage with me, because again I'm a writer. So like all of this is just stuff that is written, is in my head, and then I just remember. Literally, especially for open mics, it's only like 3 minutes. I can remember the delivery, what I said, what words. There'll be times if you catch me off stage where I'm like pissed at myself because I'm going back through the set in my head, like I fucked up on this word. This word is wrong. Also, can I curse? I should have asked.
Yeah, you probably
okay, cool.
Absolutely.
My bad. But I'm just going through it in my head. Like I know that I could have this word I said this way. Previously, I've done it like the last 3 times this way. It's been better. And I used to record myself when I first started. Over time, it's just gotten to a point where I don't need to as much. Yeah. But I still like to grab tapes of sets because to see how you move around, but not as much. Yeah.
Well, unlike Marv's teacher, the curse words are in the Webster vocabulary. Okay. So yes, we can curse.
No, I honestly usually I ask before we start. My bad.
Yeah, no,
but I got one question before we hit to these questions.
Hold on, I have a question for Marv too.
What's up?
So after
you got 2 minutes.
Even Steven gave you the card. Did you ever reach out to him, or did he ever reach out to you?
Never. Actually, I'll tell you this, right? So I remember the day. Like I remember the day like it was yesterday. So I remember the exact day because it was the day that I actually came up with my formula for how I did open mics because I didn't write. Right? So what I would do was I wouldn't tell people I was a comedian. And I would go and I would just sit in the crowd with just random people. I would put myself in the middle so I can watch how they reacted to all the comedians. I can have personal conversations with people. I can kind of get their little temperament. So by the time I went on stage, I actually knew the crowd.
Yeah, I do that now.
Right?
I do that now, yeah.
And so that's what allowed me to be able to not write and freestyle.
I do that now, but I sit in the crowd during I actually kind of prefer.
That lets you know which jokes
I know which jokes to go. Yeah, so
exactly.
I'm sitting in the crowd. Usually I'm in the crowd and I'm just I'm listening to what we're laughing at, what we're into. Yeah. And if I had an idea, if I were planning to do a certain joke and I hear someone else kind of eat it on a similar subject, I'm just kind of kicking that one out
I
and
did
bringing
it from
something
a
else
psychological view.
Yeah.
I would sit back and I would talk to people and I'd be like, oh, this person is probably into this type of stuff. This person is into this. This person don't understand this. This person don't understand that. This person don't understand. There's only one joke that I can remember, and it was a joke based off of Madden, right? And it was.
I don't think you answered my question.
No, but this is what I'm trying to get to you.
Okay.
Well, I won't even go that far. But it was almost like a majestic night. It was like one of those nights where I really figured it out. Like I had been workshopping this thing for years. I've been trying to find this perfect formula and it wasn't even about how to write jokes. It was more like how I was going to present the comedy that I wanted to present, right? Because I'm working out all these different things. I'm trying to be a conscious comedian. I'm trying to do all these different things, and I'm not drawn into the crowd. And then one day I just connect with the audience. So, and all this shit happened simultaneously. So nobody ever used to come watch me besides my dad, because he used to videotape it for me to study afterwards. Okay. This day he decided not to come, right? I actually told him to stop coming because I started to get tired of reviewing these tapes of me fucking bombing. I was tired.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. And so I'm and so I tell him to stop videotaping. I got this. And so I go boom. So like I said, my high school friends found out that I was doing comedy. They got together secretly and figured that they don't come surprise me. Now a lot of people don't know when you're up there on the stage, they got a light in your face. You can't see the crowd.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So these guys are all in there. I didn't even know that they were there. So I get off the stage. I just fucking ripped it. The crowd's going crazy. and I see these motherfuckers in the crowd. Now I lose my shit again, right? So I'm like, oh, fuck. And they're just like, damn, we didn't even realize you was actually good and shit, right? And so now I'm getting, it's like, and next thing you know, this guy walks up to me and gives me this card. And after all that, we had our drinks, we did all that. I go home. I tell my dad, bro, you's not going to believe what just fucking happened.
Today would have been the day for you to video record all this.
And, we're talking about it. And at that moment, it kind of like hit me. It was like, damn, really what you got in this for is really not around anymore. You were pretty much just doing it for fun. Now this is going to become a responsibility, and you haven't taken it that serious. Like, I stopped writing jokes because I couldn't take writing that serious. Yeah. And so, like, it was like you're half-heartedly really doing this shit, and I couldn't sacrifice my name like that. Yeah. And so I decided
you knew that much about yourself. A lot of people, like, it's difficult to recognize that an opportunity is not for you.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to, like, walk away from something like that.
No, if I know this by myself, if I knew what I knew now, I would have found somebody who could help me write jokes.
Oh, so you're saying you would just went and so you would have just basically got somebody.
If I would have, I don't have a problem with somebody writing my jokes. Like, I wouldn't have had a problem. Like,
which
I feel like
by the way, there's not an issue with that. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
The greats do it all the time.
Yeah. Richard Pryor had a writer.
It's not saying somebody.
Richard Pryor.
It's not saying somebody.
Paul Mooney was his writer.
Pretty much, it's saying that there's two types of people. There's visionaries, and then there's people who put pen to paper. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes you need both of those people to work together to make one thing. And so it's like, what people don't understand, you might hear Richard Pryor, even though somebody structured those jokes for them, it was still Richard Pryor. That person had to sit and talk with Richard Pryor and get some experiences from him and say, oh, that's actually good. If we take this and we structure this into a joke and put it this way, that shit'll be funny.
Also, I feel like people miss, like, some stuff that is really personal to you. It is difficult because of how close you are to it to write jokes about it.
Yeah.
So there are parts of my life that, like, I just got, and it's like, I'm far removed from it, but I just got comfortable enough to where, like, I can joke around with it. And I would imagine, like, if I had been set on fire, for example, while trying to smoke crack, I would imagine it'd be difficult for me to find the humor in that without at least having someone to kind of bounce ideas off, to kind of help, like, guide me through it.
True.
Yes.
And I think there's something to be said for having somebody there to help you write. Yeah. So I'm not knocking it. It's just I've never had that. Like I'm the more the person who's like, yo, you want to come perform because I don't want to.
I don't want to do that, but I'll write your stuff.
I 100% would pass off
the
jokes if
comedians
I
I used to
could.
be around in California. It was every man for themselves.
Yeah,
we didn't even talk. We barely talked to each other. Mm-hmm. Like, people came and did their sets and just did, and that's what it was. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like.
So that's foreign to me because, like, when I started here, the thing that used to annoy me the most, but I did a lot of, was there was always just writers workshops. And what it really turned into was just, it's every comedian just sitting around being like, all right, so I think that something's here, but here's what I think. How is this funny? And we're just all just kind of like working through each other's jokes. And I remember when I first started, I remember hating that because, again, I'm a writer. So, like, I'm sitting around with a bunch of people who are performers. I'm like, what? Just fucking write it. And now now at this point, I understand, like, I honestly have written jokes for people and been like, look, this is really good. I can't do this. This is going to work great for you. And just pass it off to them and let them have it because I can't do it. I don't want to perform all the time. I don't always love performing. It's not something that I do it primarily because I started writing jokes and I want the feedback.
Some of the best writers started doing stand-up,
yeah,
because that's how they learn how to.
It's the purest feedback, and it's like the cleanest. Like, it's like we don't spend a lot of time. We're just premise, setup, bang.
It's not built off of your name, notoriety, anything like that.
Yeah, you don't have to know me. Right, I can walk into a room, you don't know who I am. I give me a mic and a speaker in 5 minutes. I swear you're gonna love me.
Yeah,
and that's the point. And that part of it, I think, is the part that I kind of come back to. But the actual performing part of it, I could do without. I'm not into the act outs.
I can't relate with any of that. I'm just a corny mom comedian. I like to think I'm funny at home.
But I got one question for you guys, and we can get to this topic. Okay. We're going to do this real quick. He
isn't done, by the way.
Who?
T.I.
He's done what?
He's not done. He's going to keep going.
Oh, of course. Stop it. Okay. Question: in a relationship, is it okay to have a work husband or wife?
Ooh, this was fun.
No.
Yeah.
Why not? Or why so? Go. Everybody gets one answer.
No.
Why not?
Because that's overstepping your relationship boundaries.
How come? That's you got to expound. You got to expound.
So, outside of work, having relationships with the opposite sex is already risky, right? So why would you risk that same thing in your workplace when you're risking more, your employment, and your marriage?
I mean,
relationship, whatever that is.
But see, I think that's so. I think people's
what is your answer?
I think people's perversion of what a work wife and a work husband.
His answer was yes.
No, has taken it to the extreme.
Your answer was yes, right, Marv?
I think that
he's asking what is your answer first, then to
I need definitions first before I can answer.
Work husband and wife. What?
I need some definitions.
No, is it? Do I approve of the work?
Yes.
All right, so that's what I'm saying. Like, it depends on how. I think it's an individual. I think it's by situation. I think it's based on the individual that does not have said work was husband or wife, right? And how do you view it, right? Because some people, I'll put it to you like this: I dated this girl, and because I work in what is considered like a huge industrial kitchen, right? For some reason, every day I left for work, she would have visions of me banging girls in the refrigerator. I never did anything.
Like, I don't deny.
No. Never did anything to give her. That was just once I left, the way she viewed me, my level of attraction through her eyes. She felt like I was going to go out here I was just beating women off with a broom.
That's not rare.
Accepting them all.
Because people who have spouses who work as like waiters, they sometimes think the person, oh, you're waiting on the table of women. Now you're gonna go sleep with the women after you done serving them.
Oh, wait, think about why you?
But there's more to that.
Yes. Why you think strippers can't have boyfriends? You feel
but that's
me?
There's more to that.
Every day they go to work, they just you feel me like
right. But that's just like you said, per situation. Now maybe that person is a serial cheater. And their opportunities come, and he takes on to that.
But maybe he's
never know.
No. But maybe he's not.
Sometimes they don't have to be.
And maybe the chick or the whomever is psycho and crazy and comes up with stories. You never know.
When we say work wife, work husband, are we just saying this is a person that you have a close relationship with at work?
That's it. No, so it's like
the
opposite sex.
No, that's not it.
What is the relationship that we're?
The actual definition of work wife, work husband.
Yeah, what is that relationship?
Is like the platonic friendship at work. Maybe like the closest person of the opposite sex that you guys probably have lunch together.
Yeah, y'all have inside jokes.
Like and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? But it's not like nothing serious. You guys don't hold hands and share kisses
so my answer to that,
and get weekend motels and shit like that.
Well, no, that's not work wife. That's just you fucking around.
No,
but like my answer to that would be if I was trying to figure out the answer to it, I would say if I could tell everything to my partner about what was happening and they were cool with it, then I would be okay with it.
Okay.
But if I told them that and they were like, fucking what?
Yeah.
I would be like, okay, maybe this is a bad idea. Maybe we shouldn't, maybe this shouldn't work.
I'm single, but I have a work wife, right?
Yeah.
I it's
if you're single, like,
I was going to say that's a whole
but that's
of
what
course.
I'm saying. On the other end, on the spectrum,
you only have to confront yourself about that situation.
Let me finish. On the spectrum, she's married.
That's the thing. Yeah,
no,
that's the big part. That's the big part.
On the spectrum,
that's the big part.
She's married. Not only is she married, her dad also works with us, right?
Oh, this is interesting.
What's funny about that?
No.
There's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of moving pieces.
But
too many.
We all have our inside jokes. Me and her dad are cool in the fan, and he knows that there's nothing intimate going on between me and his daughter. Mm-hmm. We just got along. We clicked. We just look out for each other at work.
Maybe my definition of work wife and work husband is different.
You might be taking it a step further.
I think that was the initial thing of work wife and work husband, and then these whole workplace affairs make it perverted it, and so when people hear work wife work husband, they think that
that's
this is
what
somebody
that's what I am viewing as work wife or work husband, because they're gonna bring you a lunch that day, or they're gonna take care of you like a spouse at work.
But in a sense,
you know, and protect you.
And I have never had a work wife bring me lunch. I didn't know that was an option, by the way. I didn't know I could get lunch out of this.
You can get lunch out of it.
I didn't know. No one told me.
You can get.
I've never had
the most I've gotten is a nice tie, and that was it.
A tie? You got a tie?
Every now and then you get a cash app.
Okay.
Every now and then you get a cash app. You feel me? For
I never got any of that. I got like, yo, that's a nice tie. What are your plans for this weekend? All right, cool. Well, have a good day. That was all I got.
Conversation, right? Me too.
Technically at work, I'm an African. So
but
I got a bunch of work.
But see, what you said is that's a good point. What you said about how the person you're with is like, they did what?
Yeah.
But also you have to, your work wife husband status, what you share, what is PC and what isn't is determined by what that person is okay with.
You want me to tell you the only way you will feel offended by those type of things is if you're falling short at home. No.
I kind of agree with that.
No, let me tell you something. Because if you're living up to full expectations to satisfy your partner, none of that stuff even matter. I'll tell you this one. You know what? For my mother, rest in peace. But I'll tell you this. I remember when I was 25 years old. I went back home to California. I'm kicking it with my parents, right? They're like, we gonna go to a club. You right? We finna go to a club. I said, okay. You feel me? We get to the club, right? We get out. We outside. My dad looked at me and said, all right. We are not your mother and father. We are your brother and sister. We are going to go in here. We are going to party. We are going to have a good time. When it's time to go, we are all going to leave. Right? So when I thought it was gonna be like some swinger type shit, like, oh, I'm your brother, this is your sister, whoa. No. What they wanted to know, what they did was they didn't want to date themselves, or they didn't want to age themselves. So they didn't want some grown ass man running around here talking about my mommy and daddy's here.
Yeah.
You feel me? I got that part. But what I did was, because I was kind of distracted from what was going on, I had a good time at the club, but part of it was watching them and see what was going on. And my dad was over in the corner. He got 2 drinks in his hand. He buying chicks drinks. He over there dancing. My mom is over at the bar. She got dudes buying her drinks. She's over dancing. They doing all that. And as soon as the bartender said, it's last call, I seen my dad. He put up his cell phone. You feel me? My mom was like, you guys, I had a nice night. Woo, woo, woo. And literally, they synced back up and bounced right out of that, right? And, they went to their room, and I don't know what happened after that. Don't even want to think about it. But I'm going to tell you one thing. The next day, my mom said, did you realize what you watched last night? And I said, I think I did. And she said, I want you to understand one thing, is that we're so secure in this marriage that both of us can go out and have fun. We can dance with the opposite sex. We can talk to them. Mm-hmm. They can flirt with us and do everything that they want to. But at the end of the night, guess who I'm going home with?
No, but
that person over here. So that's why I'm saying this is the difference between that. Because most other people go to the club with their significant other and they see them surrounded by a group of the opposite sex. That's a problem immediately. So many people are so fragile in their relationships that when somebody else shows a sign of a good gesture, because you're falling so short at making the basic quota of your relationship, you will immediately be offended.
But I have to object to that because I feel like I have to object to that because you can be secure in your relationship. You can take care of every need they have, and they can take care of every need you have. But I don't know if you've ever seen the meme. I don't know if you've ever seen the meme the dude talks
I'm
about.
gonna let you finish.
The dude talks about how he got injured at work, and he's like, oh, I got injured at work and this and that, and he's in the hospital. And Sherry took me to the hospital, and they patched up my arm and stuff like that. And the person's like, who's Sherry? And there's things that even you can be in the securest of relationships, and some things can cross lines for people.
Boundaries.
Some things can cross lines for people that they are secure in you, but that stuff isn't that's not cool with them. Like if somebody bought, like you said, you got a tie.
Yeah.
I think a tie is benign.
Okay.
I think a tie is benign. But some people, no matter what the security is,
so you may tell you something?
That's too far.
You may tell you
But why would you
no
think
security?
it's too far, though?
You may tell you why
They
there's
might.
You may tell you why there's still no security? Because out of all the people that exist in the world, you think that when you meet somebody, you're the only person that's attracted to them? You think, no. Hold on, let me finish. You think that they'll never, ever meet anybody that's attracted to them ever again, yet they'll see somebody else that is attracted to them?
That's the exact point.
No. That's what I'm
temptation. You're trying to get away from temptation.
No.
Not
That's not
move
the point.
toward the light.
See, and that's the problem. That's the problem with society, is that they feel like just because you find somebody attractive, that means that you're going to act on it. That means that if you are secure in your relationship, people are always going to make an attempt at your significant other.
But that is an attempt. That is an attempt, though.
Time out. Let me.
And you're entertaining the attempt at work.
No, you're not. No, that's not entertaining an attempt.
Oh, no.
That is not.
You just now said.
You know what? Entertaining an attempt is saying, guess what? I see what you're doing. How about you come over to my house for dinner? Something like that. That's entertaining the attempt.
I feel like there's a little bit more to entertaining
No,
attempt.
I'm saying
Yeah.
accepting a tie from somebody is not
No, that's not what accepting
Going
a
to lunch
gift.
with somebody
It
is
doesn't
not
matter what it
entertaining
is. You may be crossing the boundary for your spouse.
Yeah.
Period.
Again, it depends.
Second of all,
it depends on like if you take it back to your partner.
That's everybody.
And
your partner's like no. Like,
I mean,
it doesn't
if you've
have to
already
justify it.
accepted the
It doesn't have to
gift.
be logical or justified either, because I think that.
But you've already
And that's
accepted
what
the
I'm trying to-
gift, though.
that's what
Then
this is what I'm trying to help people understand.
But
What we've done in society is we have settled for unhealthy relationships. No,
hold up. I need to know what is wrong with this situation right now.
Hear me out.
So you're saying, I just want to understand what you're meaning, Mark.
I'm trying to help
like
you
you
understand,
want.
but if I finish, you would help me understand.
And I'm saying like clarifying what I already know that you've said. You are saying that you can be at work and have a work wife that's also sending you money to get coffee, and you guys are talking. You guys have a bond, a relationship, a connection, if you will.
I've never.
But when
I've
you
never,
go back home,
I've never did anything. Never had any sexual advances towards her.
Right.
And neither has she towards me.
right? But what do you think that's leading up to?
Nothing.
I don't think it has to.
I don't think. Yeah, it doesn't have to lead to anything.
So that's what I'm trying to. Hold on,
Entertaining.
That's what I'm trying to.
You
explain.
know,
no, hold on. This is
not
what
for
I'm
a
trying-
guy.
hold on,
I'm
hold
a
on,
woman.
hold on. That's what I'm trying to. That's what I'm
If
trying to
he's-
understand. No, that's what I'm trying to help people understand. Is that we have came so conditioned to be in entertaining and being and staying in unhealthy relationships, of unmatched relationships.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen people do till death do us part in relationships that they have not been in,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you're in a totally healthy situation, if you can't go back to the person that is supposed to be meant for you,
Right.
and explain that to them,
Right,
and they're
right.
saying this does not match up to me, even though you see that may be okay, that may not be the person necessarily meant for you.
That's
I
different,
feel
though.
like
That's
I
you're
personally-
communicating.
this
I'm
is my
simply
opinion.
talking about
This is my opinion. I
what
feel like
you
going
think is
forward,
okay.
You're forcing the relationship,
But-
because I feel like somebody who's meant for you understands who you are and the lines that you will cross. And
Right.
so if they know, and that's why I brought up the situation with my parents. Because in that situation, most women, you buy them drinks at the club, that's automatic. There could be a ticket back to your hotel room. You tell me you got a
Right,
hotel room. Most women.
But
set
they
you- hold on.
obviously had an agreement, though.
Hear me out.
Like
But,
doing what they
no.
did, and then they
It's
came
not-
back
it's
together.
more than the
Your
agreement.
parents.
They had a security
Yeah.
in the other
It's
person.
right.
No, it's
more
not-
than agreement.
but
Yes.
It's more than an
But
agreement.
here's
Yeah.
the thing, though.
Which ultimately made them secure
Yes.
in the relationship with
I
the person that they
agree.
chose.
But you can,
Right.
but stuff can still be.
My dad had a female best friend.
That's fine. But what I'm saying is that
I kind of thought he was. I was like, dang, is he banging his chick? Because why is she doing all this stuff? My mom did not give one hush.
But at the
because
same time, for other people, it's not unhealthy. It's not twisted. It's not a fault in society. If somebody has a problem with parts of that, like like the scenario, you
it's a problem.
Yeah, I'm just saying simply boundaries. Being in bad situations. He's partially right to what I believe.
It's a situation of being in an unhealthy situation and not healing from those situations. Going into
it's not even just that though. It's communication, agreement. What you were saying, not furthering entertaining something that could lead to something else out of your control.
We talked about this before everybody came. It is, and this is why. When you get out of an unhealthy relationship, if you do not put yourself to being self-said healthy before you enter something else, you will always hold your counterpart guilty of the past transgressions of other people. So the thing is that this is what the situation is that the spouse or significant other can't control what happens at work, because those moments are the time that you were out of the supervision of said. So that means
said person
if you are not secure with that person, that means that the trust that you have in their decision making is questionable, which means that why are you even with that person? But people are so involved in unhealthy relationships that they rather figure out how to maintain unhealthy, sad situation than put themselves with somebody who may be able to handle themselves in that situation.
But I don't think one equals the other, though.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. I'm simply talking about the person at work.
Also, like
having the said relationship.
I don't think so.
I also agree that like if you are what you're saying, like I don't think that things necessarily have to go down a specific road. But if you spend enough time, like I think it's if you spend enough time with someone that you are attracted to and they're attracted to you, and you are doing everything together, eventually it doesn't have to be, it may not be giant, it may not be huge, but eventually you are going to cross into a territory where you are going to find out that whether or not your partner's cool with where you're headed. Or where you're cool with. And now you got to confess to your partner. And I understand taking like a preponderance
you put yourself in that position.
Effort. I understand taking a preponderance. You know what? Listen, I understand taking a preponderance effort to avoid that.
About this situation because I actually been in that situation.
I can see if
where I thought it was all platonic.
No, I can see if that's on said person taking advantage of such a situation. What I'm saying is, say you get close with a coworker, right? Mm-hmm. And you see that the lines are starting to become blurred, right?
Okay.
There becomes a point where as your integrity is called into question because now you have this person at home that you can hide all this from as long as you want to. But now your integrity is called into question because now you can say to said person, hey, check this out. You know I'm involved. I can't go down this route. This is very unacceptable, right? Mm-hmm. If you fall into it, that ain't your partner's fault. That's your personal fault. Yep. And said partner may go into another relationship and have issues in the areas of their partner working around the opposite sex because of said experience that they had with somebody else. So what I'm saying is this whole thing is based off of said person's security, not the couple's. Individual. If you have a person at home and they are not secure with you being at work with the opposite sex and having some sort of a relationship with the people you see at least 8 hours or more a day, then they are not secure in a relationship at all with anybody, regardless of who said person is. They're always going to feel pitted against their spouse or significant other. They're not ready for that. And that's the problem with having this conversation because nobody's saying that the person who's feeling this way was not ready for a relationship in the first place. We're trying to figure out how this person who mentally cannot maneuver through a relationship should be able to. No, that's not what it said. If you are feeling some type of way, which is most of a fucking America in these relationships, you are not suited to be in a relationship. Go find a therapist, talk to them about your said hangups, and maybe they can help you address these situations in a healthier way.
But sometimes you're not the one that's bringing in those unhealthy things. Maybe it's your spouse.
That's
no,
true.
They may have the unhealthy act.
I was still talking.
But that's what I just said. They may have the unhealthy act.
Right, that's exactly what I'm saying.
But that doesn't mean...
And you don't have control over that. You know what I'm saying?
You have a control over how you react. Not what they do, but how you react. Right. And so what the problem is, and that's what I'm trying to say.
So what if you disagree with that said, like, whatever they're bringing to the table, like, well, I've had friends of the opposite sex. You may not want me to, but that means that's outside of the workplace. But here I am having a work husband. That's obviously overstepping the boundary.
Sometimes it's just a title that people put on each other because you've bonded with somebody over work. That doesn't necessarily mean, and that's
why I said I want a definition.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Right. That's what the toxicity of it, because people automatically hear it and they automatically think intimacy. And yes, that's what I'm saying. Some people's actions have drove them over the edge to where they've taken advantage of having somebody that they were close to at work. But what I'm also saying is not knowing, but still having the animosity of said situation is not the healthy thing, which is more likely what we're talking about is somebody as you having a work husband or having a work wife or having a spouse that had one and you not knowing what's going on, but your intellect is driving you to the worst case scenario. Right. That means that you have a relationship hang up in that area, and that means that you did not healthily insert yourself into this situation, which is why you are having this. So I'm not saying you have to leave the situation, but either most people should see that and say, you know what, there's an issue here. I may need to talk to somebody about that. Yeah. Instead, most people act out about it, and it puts the relationship in more of a detriment.
Will ignore that altogether and continue, and it gets worse and worse and worse because they haven't, handled that situation because they don't think it's a problem.
That's
or they get fired.
That is,
or what?
They get fired.
That too, because they had an inappropriate relationship with a work person, and now their spouse, and it's got out of control. And
because the spouse can get somebody fired real quick,
and a lot of people don't know. Even if you work at,
I was the manager, and then I'm cool with everybody, but I predominantly worked with males. And over time, we've all obviously had relationships, talked and whatever, especially me being the manager. I had to have a relationship with everybody at work. So one day, a guy just thought that it would be okay to give me a kiss. But now I had to go home and tell my spouse. But he's come to my job before and actually seen how we all interacted prior to the kiss. And then once I sat him down and told him, I was faulted. It was all my fault. And that obviously was traumatizing to me to be like, now I don't trust to tell you anything if anything were to happen. And like, what you were saying, the hang up, something had happened in his prior relationships that I don't know about. Whereas he's hanging up on this because I'm like, it took a lot out of me to go and tell him this.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then not only that, he was upset with the fact that I didn't fire the individual. I just put him on a different shift.
And that's what I'm saying is like, all right, in this situation, say you get close with somebody and it gets inappropriate. If you have the confidence in yourself to bring this to your significant other or spouse, that if you're with the right person, and this is what I'm saying, that should tell them something. This person is actually coming to me, being open with me and talking to me about this. They're not trying to hide it. They're not trying to run from it. This is actual situation. Somebody that actually cares about you is going to be like, okay, let's see what's going on here, trying to figure it out. When the person's immediate reaction is to become infuriated or to blame, that person was not mentally healthy enough to interact in a relationship, because it's not just the work relationship that was going to do that. anything that almost required the opposite sex to interact with you at a personal level was going to be a threat to that person.
So I'm not arguing the point. I think you're right, but I guess my question is, but you're still married to this person now. You're still in a relationship with this person who now you realize may not need to be in that relationship with you. Is there not some level of like almost responsibility on your part to take into account that they're not?
Oh no!
Yes.
That's why.
Hold on, then they're not what? I want you to finish that
So
sentence.
that they're not at that they have ongoing trauma that they're bringing with them.
Yes.
And just kind of taking that into account, so that like, all right, so I know, for example, that you have an issue with cheating. So to help alleviate that for you, I will not be in situations that is even going to spark your mind thinking I'm going to do it.
Triggering
because I
it,
know
yeah.
that you have. And is it necessarily the best for me? No. But because you're still working through your trauma, I realize that I have the ability to cause harm with my actions, and I'm going to take a little bit more effort and put a little bit more thought into what I'm doing.
But
so
that's why I say
don't
I said most of America when it comes to relationships, because I think most of us are in relationships.
I think most of us are in relationships with
think-
people who have been damaged.
No,
That's-
I
But
wouldn't
I
say-
also think
no, I
it
wouldn't
takes
say just
a
damage,
maturity to do what you
I would
said.
say, and
Yeah.
I'm
You
not in,
actually give a damn about the person that
Yeah.
you're in a relationship and you want to help.
Yeah, I'm actually single, so I'm not in a relationship.
I mean, no, not
But
you, but I'm saying
what I've realized is
two
that
Yeah, I'm married,
mature
so-
people
yeah, I
that
have a wife.
still
Yeah.
what I realize is that
have
most
trauma,
people
you know?
get into relationships
He said, "I'm single." And
not based on
like how he's been dropping that
the
throughout the
needs.
entire podcast.
Not,
He
not
likes, to
based,
single.
he likes to drop that single bomb, though.
He's like, I'm single. I'm single if y'all don't know.
Yeah, no, but I realize that most people get into relationships because not of, and I'm not saying everybody, because I do believe that there's successful relationships, successful marriages, and all that above. I would never, poo-poo those. I know some. But
you
I
say
do believe
poo-poo?
majority of people get into relationships for lack of companionship, fear of
Finances.
loneliness.
Yeah.
And so they don't properly vet who they choose. And so, yeah, there may be somebody who has hang-ups with cheating,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but that's not
Also,
my. And so
I'm going to take it a step further. I think because like my wife has issues and problems. I have issues and problems. We're still married, and part of it was I was like, all right, as a whole, you have some problems, but as a whole, you're fine. Like you're not. I realize that I have issues and my own problems and hang-ups and trauma that I brought from my own relationships. You have issues and trauma and problems that you brought from your past relationships. But holistically, even with all the hang-ups and the problems and the trauma, you're still holistically someone I want to be with.
Right.
Which I'm pretty sure if something happens, you guys have learned a healthy way of communicating.
Right.
Yeah,
I was
right.
just gonna say,
So that's
and
what
you
I-
guys
so-
come together
so this is
to work
this
together
is-
doing that.
That's you're actually helping me
Yeah.
prove my point. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
no. I'm not, and
Exactly.
I'm not disagreeing
No,
with
no,
you.
no,
I'm
I
not disagreeing
appreciate
with you.
that.
I think you're right.
Because
You're just
because
one
with
of very
you,
few
if
in
you
rela-
come
in
to if
marriages,
you,
you know?
I can tell you, I believe this, and not knowing you, but believe this, that if you had something that was really bothering you, you can go to your wife in confidence, speak about it, and you guys can have a dialogue on what to do
Yeah.
to go forward.
Yeah.
And so most relationships don't have that dynamic now.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of us have our hang-ups and we don't know how to either heal from those hang-ups, or even if we do get with somebody, we don't know how to joint heal with those hang-ups, right?
Or just
We
how
don't
to
know how to
navigate
have that
life.
healthy
Yeah.
conversation. We don't know how to, it's either, one of the biggest thing is sacrifice in relationships. Because
But it's
it
not
always
supposed
has
to
to
be
be my
sacrificed,
way.
though.
Well, no, it does have to be sacrificed
you-
because you
yeah.
have to.
I feel like
you have to get rid of the
I
my
There's a
way.
lot of stuff you gotta get-
learn
You have to
more
get
about
rid of-
this.
no, you
'Cause
have to
I've been
get-
calling it sacrifice all these years.
Yes, no, but sacrifice. You have to get rid of the it's my way point of view, right?
What do you call it?
I forget the dang name. I was just like thinking to
you had
myself,
a-
what is it?
it was the point. It was right
because
there.
I'm constantly you guys have always heard me say sacrifice. You've got to do that in parenting and your marriage and your employment, whatever. But it's actually something else. And I forget what it's called.
Compromise.
But, I mean, you're supposed to compromise in a marriage, but it's called something else because you're not supposed to sacrifice yourself or others. It's I hope
What,
it
like
comes to my head.
co-mingling or
Is it like,
something?
Well,
is it like
No.
a resourcing
So
thing where you
the
just
reason why I say
prioritizing?
the reason why
I
I
have
say
to.
the reason why
Okay.
I say sacrifice is this, and I learned this.
Sacrifice is like sacrificing yourself. You're not supposed to do that.